For the most part, marriage is just what you make it. And I've learned that you have to be really intentional. Just because you married the right person does not mean that it's just going to be flowery and great and gorgeous all the time. Like you're humans. And I just think it takes lots of effort and intention all the time.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a Christian marriage and intimacy expert and coach. I'm on a mission to help couples have the best sex and most emotionally intimate marriages possible. Our episodes cover topics you've always wondered about and are packed with practical advice designed to help you take your marriage to the next level. I have a background in computer science. I don't know if you know that about me. And I love writing code. Pretty nerdy, right? The better the code, the better the program. A program can't run better than the code it's written from. The way we express our sexuality is the same way. We can't out-sex ourselves beyond the thoughts we have about sex. This is one reason why I'm a big believer in marriage and sex coaching, and probably why you're listening to this podcast. I help my clients recognize their current thoughts about sex and their marriage and invite them to reprogram their thoughts and to elevate and improve their thoughts about sex so they can live a happier, more fulfilling life and better marriages. In fact, so many marriages can do better if they take time to think about what they think about sex and their relationship. In fact, if more couples did this, we could eliminate poverty from bedrooms everywhere. My guest today is Heather Flake. Heather is a fellow life coach that helps married women love who they are in their marriage more. Heather, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. How are you this morning?
Thank you. I'm so good. I'm so jazzed to be here.
So happy to meet you. You just exude this positive, fun energy. You're just fun to be with. So,
Well, thank you.
and I can only imagine your marriage is full of fun and excitement all the time. Has it always been that?
Always. Yes, it is always so fun. It is just the biggest party of all times, always, constantly.
Let me I sense a little sarcasm in what you're saying. Is there a time when it
Yeah.
was not that way, or when you realized it wasn't that way?
Okay, I mean, here's the tea, y'all. I am lying, right? I mean, marriage, like anything else, has amazing days and has sucky days.
Uh-huh.
But, I feel like for the most part, marriage is just what you make it. And I've learned that you have to be really intentional. Just because you married the right person does not mean that it's just going to be flowery and great and gorgeous all the time. Like you're humans. And I just think it takes lots of effort and intention all the time.
Yes, and allowing the humanness to be there. It's okay.
Yeah, that's part of the beauty of it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. You not want to be married to a robot, right?
No, exactly. We would hate that.
No. So tell me of a time when, maybe in your sex life specifically, you had this wake-up call that you got to change things.
Yes. Okay. I remember this. So we were living in Tennessee and then we had moved to Arizona. My husband was starting a PhD program and I was just being a hater. I did not want to leave. I love Tennessee. And so I decided, you know what? Why don't you join a gym? So I joined this rec center that was near my house. And come to find out, it was just full of old people. Now, I
Uh-huh.
love old people, like anybody does. But I had joined the gym as a way to try to make some friends and get some community. And it was just me and a bunch of 84-year-olds that already had friends and already had community. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I just remember one specific morning, I'm at the gym, I'm working out, and I had just been feeling like something was wrong with me. I had had a baby like a year before, not quite a year before, and I just had no sex drive. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just really bothering me. And I just kept thinking, what is wrong with me? And so I remember going to the OBGYN and being like, hey, I don't really have any sex drive. I'm really tired. I'm very fatigued. She's like, yeah, you just had a baby. You've been breastfeeding. That's normal. Have a great day. And I
Uh-huh.
was just so bugged. I'm like, well, that didn't help me. And I didn't want to take this magic pill, but I was just confused.
Uh-huh.
So while I was at the gym, I found this podcast where someone was interviewing Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife about
Uh-huh.
their drive or something. And I'm listening, and Dr. Fife says, listen, the easiest way to start if you're feeling like you don't have a sex drive, you can do two things. A, go to the doctor, get checked out, and make sure, biologically, everything is working. And then
Mm-hmm.
the next part, if you get the clear there, the next part is usually about 95% of your drive problem is coming from your brain.
Yep,
And I
up
was like,
here. Uh-huh.
"Ah!" Part of me was like, "Dang it," because I'd been to the doctor, I knew I was fine, so that mean I had some work to do, and I was like,
That's
"Well,
right. I
crap,"
don't have
like
an excuse to hide behind anymore. It's all
yeah,
on
I'm
me.
like exactly, I was so bugged, I'm like, "I do everything, and now I have to work on my sex life, like, what the heck?"
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so I remember sitting in the gym and listening to some of the things the lady was saying, and she was saying, "What does desire look like? What does it feel like in your body?" I'm thinking, "I don't know." You know,
Uh-huh.
if I feel desire, that depends on my husband and what he's doing or what he's not doing. And
Right.
then I'm listening and hello, like I'm a coach and it's like, sister, that's not true. Like that's
Uh-huh.
straight up not true.
Right, right.
So just
Uh-huh.
in that gym, and I felt nervous. Like this was a topic that I had not really ever paid much attention to. Like up until this point, sex was just kind of easy and it wasn't that big of a deal and whatever. It was the first time I kind of had to take a look inward and look at it and decide like, hey, we're gonna have to change some things here in order to improve or to feel more connected and better in this relationship. So it's kind of
Mhm.
scary for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, right.
it's a
What was
lot.
scary about it?
I think for me, just like looking inward, I didn't want to dig through all my stuff and figure out what I was thinking about sex. I just
Mhm.
wanted Devin to fix this. I just wanted my husband to be the one to fix it. And I don't know. I think I just felt like, "Oh, I'm broken or something's wrong with me." And I felt
Mhm.
maybe shame, I felt discouraged about that. And for me, it just felt like this is another thing I have to put on my list to work on. I already have so many
Mhm.
things I'm trying to work on and now it's sex. And I really just
Right.
felt so bugged by that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate when they have problems or
Totally.
they really feel like they're living below their privileges.
Yeah.
They think it's my spouse. I want my spouse to fix it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so easy to go to.
Yeah.
We have that tendency. Uh, can you tell me of other times you've tried to like fix a problem in your marriage by having your husband be the focus of the issue instead of yourself?
Oh, yeah. How much time do we have? I just remember even, like, when we first got married and our personalities, like, my husband and I are pretty different,
Uh-huh.
and he's a huge reader, and so I remember
Uh-huh.
one morning going off to work, I just had, like, a 4-hour shift. I went to work, and my husband was reading, kiss him goodbye. I come back, he's in the exact same spot reading,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is a huge problem. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Have you been to the bathroom? Have you had anything to eat?"
Uh-huh.
And, like
There's
anyways, and
chores to
so
be done.
yeah, yeah, I'm like, "You didn't
Uh-huh.
clean the kitchen or make the bed? Like, you don't care about me? That's rude." So I
Uh-huh.
just remember for a while, like, for the first few years, I would just try to, like, insert things or say certain things to try to get him to be different and to be more, quote, "productive like me," because then
Uh-huh.
everything would be so much better,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know, I think I just realized and I did this with various different things, different examples, and I just got to a point one day where I was so sick of feeling how I felt.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I knew that my husband was the right person for me. I really did love him, and I got so sick of just not enjoying him, and
Mhm.
I just kind of recognized he's not gonna change. I really don't want him to change. Like, if he changed for me, that would feel really crappy. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I think I just kind of
Kind of
learned
acceptance. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
accepted him, and I think when I accepted him, I found so much more love. Like, I was able to enjoy him and be like, "Tell me everything, like, tell me what is so lit about this book that you
Uh-huh.
don't wanna do anything else but read it, like, I don't understand that. Tell me
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
everything."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I really just feel like that changed so much for our relationship
Yeah,
when I got to
yeah.
that point.
I like that. So as you're talking, I have this thought in my head. I don't know if it's going to come out right, but
Sure.
we ourselves, it's like everything we experience, what we watch, what we touch, what we taste, what we feel, our experience is a direct experience. It's what
Yeah,
it's first person for us, right?
right.
And what our spouse experiences is not first person for us.
So true.
But it is first person for them.
For them. Yeah,
So it takes an awful lot of energy and communication to take a look at what our spouse is experiencing and
yeah,
kind of upload that into our brain and so that we can
totally.
vicariously experience what they're experiencing. But oftentimes we don't want to do that. We'd
No.
rather like have them change to fit our experience or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because also we think the way that they're acting or the way that they are is responsible for how we are feeling,
Mhm.
and it's just not true. I mean, the reason you feel what you feel is because of what you think. You know, me sitting there seeing him read thinking, "You're wasting so much time," is what makes me feel crappy, not him reading a book. Him reading a book is neutral, it's harmless, right?
Yeah, right, right.
So, yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the realization you had that I need to work on my sex life. I
Yeah.
wanna know, like, what were your old thoughts and what were some of the
Okay.
new thoughts you had to practice to kinda take more charge of how you felt in your relationship?
Totally, yes, and I love that you just said practice because
Uh-huh.
it does. I know that doesn't sound sexy, but this
Uh-huh.
is something you can practice, and I think also that's incredible news.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
There's not this magic pill or anything you can do, it's just that old basic thing of practice. But yeah, I
Yes.
remember sitting there and uncovering some of my thoughts, and my biggest thought was, "I'm just so tired." You know, so
Yes.
when it came to sex, I would always think that I'm just so tired, and I recognized it wasn't a priority in my
Mhm.
life at all. It was, like, on the
Mhm.
very bottom of the list.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
One of my thoughts was, "I'm just not interested in that." Like, meh, just, like,
Uh-huh.
that's a no for me. I just meh, I don't really not really into that right now. And then honestly, it was just like, I have no drive. Like how I'm sitting here telling you I had this discovery that I had no sex drive. Well, guess what I was thinking all the frickin' time? I have no sex
Not.
drive.
Oh, right, exactly.
So hello, is it any mystery that there wasn't all this great sex happening? Of course not.
And we kinda self-reinforce the thoughts that we keep thinking over and over. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
think, "I have no
We bring
sex
them to
drive,"
life.
you manifest that out in your everyday life,
Oh,
right?
yes. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Or I'm
absolutely.
not beautiful enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm
Yeah.
broken. You keep thinking those
Yes.
thoughts? Yeah,
That's
guess
your
what? You're
results
gonna
all
live
day.
in a broken way. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, you will prove whatever it is that you're thinking, you'll prove it in your
Because you
results.
can only act to the level of your thinking. You can't act beyond that. It doesn't
Totally.
it's not. You can't run a program that isn't in the program.
Exactly.
Right.
It's so true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. So the one of your pernicious thoughts was, "I'm just tired for it." So how'd you
Yeah.
combat that?
Yeah, so with that, I remember just thinking, like, when that thought would come into my brain, I would just engage with him, be like, "Oh, Heather, you're not tired, you're awake." And for whatever
Uh-huh.
reason, like, that just kind of felt I was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right, I'm awake." Um, I
Uh-huh.
also one of the biggest thoughts that helped me was, I'm a wife who likes to have sex.
Good. Uh-huh.
Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we, like, have shame, and I think, like, in, like, culture and whatever we watch and we see, the woman is not supposed to, like, wants sex or, like, have this desire for sex, like, that is not how it's supposed to go. It's just supposed to be macho man, "I'm gonna sex you," and me
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So for
But
me
it's weird too, because women are also not supposed to be completely the opposite. They're supposed to be
right.
right. So it's this weird, like,
Yeah.
paradox. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's true too.
Uh-huh.
It's just, like, you're kind of in this
Uh-huh.
confusing state, so it's like
Right.
you gotta figure out kind of where you stand with it, for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, just when that thought came into my brain, I was like, "Am I allowed to think that? Am I allowed to, like, want sex?"
Uh-huh.
So, even for me just being like, "Well, yeah," so I kind of had to, like, warm up to that idea of like, "Oh, well, A, this is true," and, like, B, that's a great thing for me to think. That helped me. Um, and then another thought that was really helpful for me was, like, I wanna create connection with my husband.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
and that's the other thing. I think the word want is huge. So
Yes,
many of
want.
us are
Uh-huh.
sitting here thinking, "I have to, and it's my job, and it's a duty," and no one's having good sex from that place.
No. Nope, at all.
So, all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden it's like, "Oh, I want this. I want connection. I wanna have fun. I want to be with him in this space."
Uh-huh.
I think want can be a big game changer.
Yes, yeah. I want pleasure, right?
Yes. Yeah. I wanna have fun with you in this way.
Right. So what about for a lot of, like, let's say moms, they're so
Yeah.
busy taking care of their
Mhm.
kids. If you have young kids, you're feeling touched out all day
Oh, yeah.
long. Your mind is constantly on your mental load of all the invisible things that need to be done all the time. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so it's easy for, I think, a lot of women and men fall in this category sometimes too, of like, sex is just one more thing on the to-do list. And
Oh, yeah.
what are some thoughts that you've had that helped you work through that?
Yeah, and I'll just say I totally felt that way, and I'm in that boat, right? I have little kids and can totally relate to that, and I think a lot of the times at the end of the day, well, even once you wake up, all you're excited for is to go to sleep, you know?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I think one
Uh-huh.
of the things that helped me so much, I remember again hearing Dr. Fife say this, because so many women feel that way. I'm so touched out. The last thing I want is for you to touch me. Like, get the heck away. And she was
Uh-huh.
like, listen, you've got to think about this as like, this is my opportunity to receive. Like, I've been taking care of everybody all day, and sex is an opportunity for me to be taken care of.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Uh-huh.
just remember hearing that and I was like, "Oh, that's beautiful." Like, that would be so beautiful if I could think about it in this way,
Mhm.
as a way for even for my husband and I to, like, receive each other instead of just like, "Ugh, I have to be giving again." It's like, no, this is about, like, receiving. It's, like, about creating and receiving.
Mm, that's so good. And you get replenished
Replenish.
in that
Absolutely.
process
Yeah,
too.
rejuvenated.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
can introduce those words into it, all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden, it's like, "Please sign me up for that. What time is
Right.
this happening?"
Right.
You're
So,
looking forward to that. Yeah.
and I think husbands, just speaking to the husbands now, they have a
Yeah.
big role to play in this too, because when they approach sex as a take, like
Mhm.
this is a need I need, you need to fulfill my need,
Right.
you kind of set up your relationship in this weird way where
Yep.
you are just reinforcing the idea that sex is something on the to-do list and a wifely duty to be accomplished
Yep.
for him. It's not a
Absolutely.
replenishing experience for both of you anymore. So you really need to approach it with the idea of this is my chance to give. This is you,
Totally.
all you need to do is sit back and just receive me. And
Right.
I'm preparing for upcoming marriage retreat. So I'm doing a lot of, just reviewing notes and whatever. And this stuck out to me yesterday when I read female sexuality is unapologetically narcissistic
Hmm.
in the best sense,
Yeah.
because what turns on a woman isn't seeing their husband turned on.
Right.
It's knowing that they are
Yeah.
the turn on. I am a turn on. And it's very self focused. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing because it's your chance to receive that touch, that
Right.
caressing, that
Yeah.
nourishment. What about the thought of all I need to do is show up and look pretty, and my husband does the rest? How about
Yes.
that?
I
Uh
mean,
huh.
I honestly, like, I thought that even a year ago, I was totally thinking that. Like, even
Uh
this
huh.
year, I remember telling my husband, like, yoo-hoo. I really just think I remember feeling like I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I really did think that my job was just to be sexy. Like, as long as I'm pretty and looking hot, then
In a cute outfit or whatever. Uh huh.
exactly, yeah, it's
Right.
like
Right.
I've got
Uh
my
huh.
lingerie on and I show up, it's like, "I'm done. Like, take
My
over,
part's
your
done.
job
Uh huh.
now."
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
And I just remember us having a really good conversation about that, and it was helpful. So if you think about that, it's like there was so much pressure because what about the times when I'm bloated and I'm fat and I'm embarrassed of my stretch marks? Like, hello. Like, I'm not wanting to show up for that. So it's like there's so much pressure for me to be a certain way in order for sex to happen.
Uh huh.
So I think just in talking with my husband about that and being like, "Oh, okay, like why do you think that way?" And well, this is what I think really helped me. But I think the other thing that was happening when I'm thinking that's my only responsibility, I was pretty checked out. Like
Yeah.
that didn't
Uh huh.
actually require very much of me,
Right,
you
because
know?
you've created this new hurdle, like,
Yes.
that has to be met, that you have to
Mhm.
overcome to get there, and the taller you make that hurdle, the less you have
Yeah.
to, right, do to get there. So we
Yeah.
keep yeah, 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 rather than something more authentic, like, "I
Yes.
just need to be me." Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, it almost put pressure on my husband, like, okay, well, you have to do all the rest of this. Like, where was I? Like,
Right,
you
uh-huh,
know?
uh-huh,
This is a shared thing, like, we're partners, we're doing this together, it's not like, "Hey, this is my section, then you take over." It's like, "No, like, let's collaborate, let's make this a team effort,"
uh-huh,
instead of like,
uh-huh.
"Oh, well, I'm pretty, so do what you will with me," you
Yeah,
know?
do the rest,
Yeah,
while
it's
I
like,
check
that's
out.
not cool,
Uh-huh.
that's not who I wanted to be at all. So, but I had to discover that. It's not like I walked around knowing I thought that, I didn't know that I thought that until
Mhm.
I discovered, "Oh my gosh, I'm thinking this," and you can't do that unless you are willing to tap into your head and kind of figure out what your thoughts are.
Great. What about the thought of sex is just 10 minutes in the dark, missionary position, and we're done? And I
Yeah.
gave that as an illustration. There's nothing wrong with
Right, maybe that
that,
works
but
perfectly
it
for
works.
some people.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on challenging your thoughts of like a model of a very precise, rigid view of what sex ought to
Yeah,
be?
it is this way, this is what it is. No, totally. I think it's just asking yourself, am I fulfilled? Like, is my sex life fulfilling? Am I enjoying this? Do I like what we're creating together?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it takes some vulnerability within yourself to answer that question, because what if the answer is no? Just like you're
Right.
saying, what if you are kind of bored, or you feel like it's stagnant, or it's just like it's the same, just like you're saying, it's the same place, 10 minutes, I
Mm-hmm.
think it takes courage to look at that. But also, I think the question is, how do you feel about your sex life? How is it going? And
Uh-huh.
even
Uh-huh.
before you take that to your partner, asking that to yourself
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just answering that for you, just taking down some notes, taking down some time to really understand how you are thinking and feeling about it. And then I think it actually opens up a really beautiful conversation within, from spouse to spouse, of like, hey, you know what I've been thinking? And
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like anytime you talk about sex, it usually leads to sex, which is awesome.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
I just think like that intention that it brings, and showing that you care about each other and you're trying to understand one another, can create some really amazing experiences in your marriage.
That's good. Good.
That's
And what
true.
you're saying reminds me of when my wife and I really, I guess, had our marriage renaissance, our rebirth of our
Yeah.
marriage 6 years ago. It was as if I we had the park hopper pass to like Disneyland and California. Like it's the multiple
Yes.
park, but we didn't know it. We were only like on one
Yes.
section of
Yeah.
theme park, and then to
Right.
realize, wait, there's all this other
We have
access
all
that we've been had
access.
the whole time,
Yeah.
right? And we could go enjoy ourselves fully and thoroughly and
Totally.
all that. Any other pernicious thoughts that get in the way of a lot of women in marriages that really restrict their ability to enjoy each other sexually?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already talked about this, but just thinking like, I have to do this. This is a duty. This is my job. This is what wives do. Or
Mm-hmm.
even just that thought of, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge one that, I mean, so you end up not doing it, and it creates all kinds of lovely emotions. But yeah, I think those are kind of some of the heavy hitters that I think probably a lot of us feel. But
Mm-hmm.
then you just feel so much shame and you feel guilt and bad that you feel that way. So I think also a lot of women just show up to sex and turn their brains off and are like, well, here's the body, do what you will,
Right, right.
And then,
Uh-huh.
hi, it's creating tons of resentment, tons of disconnection. Husband feels horrible. And so it's crazy how a little sentence like that in your brain can make such an impact in your marriage and in your sex life.
Yeah, definitely.
But the good news is that that's also true with just thinking, "Oh, I wanna do this, and sex is fun. We're so good at sex. This is our time. We've taken care of everyone today, and babe, now it's just our time."
Uh-huh.
So I think that's the good news. Like, so I just remember feeling so overwhelmed when I realized, like, oh, the reason I'm feeling bad about sex is because of what I'm thinking. And I felt really overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to change these thoughts and these beliefs and where I'm at? But I think you'd be surprised at if you get those thoughts out, if you give them airtime and you just throw them up and you let them come out of your brain and you look at it and it's like, oh, no wonder I'm not wanting to do it. Hello, look at what I'm thinking.
Uh-huh.
And then if you can just pick, I just remember picking one thing. For me, I just started with, I'm so tired. And I just practiced not believing that anymore.
Right.
So it's like if you can just pick one little thing, one step at a time, of okay, but and questioning, well, what if I did want to have sex? Or what if I thought I was good at it? What might happen? Just
Uh-huh.
like opening it up a little bit, giving yourself a little space to believe or think anything differently can have a huge impact.
Any tips on that process of how to kind of shift your beliefs? Because you're going to feel a lot of resistance at first when
Oh
you
yeah,
try to
you're
practice new thoughts. So
yeah.
what does it look like in the day in, day out of a thought elevation practitioner?
Yeah, so that's what I would tell you guys. I mean, step 1 is just getting your thoughts out, getting out a pen and paper, getting a Google Doc, and just getting it all out and just asking yourself or just writing SEX period on the top of the paper and let's go. What comes out? So just giving yourself a space where you feel like those can come out. Maybe you feel really nervous or you're scared. we're not posting this on Facebook. You're not gonna share this with anyone. Like, this is legit just for you. If you feel like you need to burn it when you're done, whatever. But it's
Right. Uh-huh.
honestly, do whatever you gotta do to get these thoughts out of your head. What do I think about sex? What's my experience? Get those thoughts out. And I think you'll even feel like it really does feel like throwing up. You know how you really, when you feel like, ugh, I need to throw up, and we fight it so bad. We're like, no, throwing up's the worst thing. Then you
Yes.
throw up and you're like, oh, I feel so much better.
It's a relief. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just like getting them out, there's this relief stage. And again, for some people, maybe you can do this in one setting. This
Mhm.
this took just like some time for me. And I would always just
Mhm.
ask myself, like, hey, Head, like, do you feel like you can talk about sex with yourself for a minute? Yeah, we could do that.
Uh-huh.
And it's like something fun you can do is like set yourself up in an environment where it doesn't suck. Get your favorite
Uh-huh.
drink, put a little music on that you enjoy, sit in your favorite chair with your great socks on, whatever. Just
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
as accessible as you can make it to get these thoughts to come out. Once you've identified them, I literally take a highlighter and I just kind of highlight my greatest hits. Like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay, no wonder." And then
Uh-huh.
I just
Uh-huh.
start to question it. Heather, what if that wasn't true? What if we
Mhm.
stopped thinking that? Maybe, and I love introducing the word maybe.
Maybe. Uh-huh.
Maybe I love sex. Like that can just give you so much more curiosity instead of this is where I am, this is who I am. So
Mhm.
and that's what I would tell you. If you notice you have some thoughts that aren't that sexy, just pick one. There's no need to
Mhm.
get overwhelmed. Pick one thought that you're just going to kind of work on practicing changing. And if it's like a really negative thought, you just work by taking the negative out and making it neutral. Like if
Mhm.
it's like I hate sex, maybe the thought is just like sex is a thing. Like can you start thinking something that
Make
at
it
least you
neutral.
believe?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Or if the
Yes,
thought is
as
I
neutral.
suck at sex,
Uh-huh.
maybe it's just like, "Oh, I'm capable of sex."
Mhm.
Like make it neutral, make it something you can believe. And then once we feel really good about believing we're capable of it, let's see how it's possible that I might be good at this. It's possible that this could be fun for our marriage.
I like your advice because it might be daunting to start from "I hate sex" to "I freaking
Yes,
love sex," right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
we gotta remember there's little steps in
It's literally
between that
baby
lead there,
steps.
and
Yeah.
all you gotta do is practicing willingness. It's
Yeah.
just if I
Yep.
hate it, can I make it a little more neutral, right? That's
Exactly.
that's all that's being asked right now.
That's it.
It's not
Yep.
we're not asking you to love it today or tomorrow. It's just
Exactly.
taking that
Yeah.
step, right? Mhm.
And just anytime you can notice that it's in your brain, it's just like, "Oh, hey, I see you." Just trying to engage with that thought instead of stuffing it down and feeling shame. It's like even if you could do that 1 out of every 10 times it enters your brain, you'll
Mhm.
you'll see some magic start to happen.
Very good. Some
Yeah.
people might be listening to this podcast thinking, "Oh, okay, why? Why do I even bother? What's in it for me? Why do I even
Mhm.
want to learn how to like sex more or analyze my thoughts and change my thoughts?" Like, can you paint a picture like what's on the
Totally.
other side of this work?
Yeah, I mean, I just think about like you were saying, having the park hopper to Disneyland. Like we
Uh-huh.
just think about it so much and it's like this is what it is. It's one way. And then I'm like, no, you literally like you can go on all of the rides, you can have unlimited churros. Like, why in the world would we not be doing that? Like, who doesn't
Yes.
wanna be on the Incredicoaster with churros in both hands, you know?
Uh-huh. Right. Uh-huh.
So, that's just what I kind of think. Why? Because why the hell not? Like,
Right.
you've chosen this person, you've decided to be married, and, like,
Mhm.
for right now, like, this is it. This is your marriage, this is your relationship. And so I just think it's why would we not do a little bit of work to make it amazing and to make it awesome because it's there. And I'm totally of the belief you and your spouse want the same thing. You both want connection. You both want to be seen and be heard. You both want to have fun. You really do. I think we want more of the same thing than we are willing to recognize that we do.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like if we can put a little intention and a little effort into that, it's going to yield these amazing results. And that's the thing. If you're having, even if you start to improve your sex life, guess what? The way you parent improves and the way you communicate improves and the way that you are able to love and see each other improves. So it's like
Yes.
if you're looking to like give your marriage a dose of awesome or just like a little injection of I don't know, so often it's just kind of this flat line, and we
Right.
get stuck in
Uh-huh.
who's taking the kids where and what time is work, and it's just like, it's boring.
Right.
So if you have it and you do, everybody does, when we have this gift, why would we not invest in it?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Right.
it can be something that is just that's so amazing and it's precious and it's just between you and a spouse. Like it's so special. I'm just of the effect like and be like, yeah, it's just sad. I never opened that present that was sitting in my closet that was totally available to me
Yeah.
because I was scared or because I was tired or
Mhm.
because I felt misunderstood.
Mhm.
So, and that's just the other thing I want to say. Like, however it is that you're feeling about sex is valid and it's
Right.
important and it matters. But if you can just be willing to take a look at it and believe that something else is totally available to you, let's do that. You deserve that.
I love that. I love that. That's been my experience too. The better our sex life became and becomes, the better everything else in life becomes.
Yeah.
And I like this Dr. David Schnarch. He was a famous marriage and sex therapist,
Mm,
often helped couples overcome other marital issues, whether it be finance or in laws or parenting or
sure.
whatever those, by addressing the sex first.
Mm,
Because once you get
yeah.
the sex right, it's like everything else, you learn how to communicate about that and overcome that.
Right.
Then everything
You can
else you
do
can learn
anything.
how to tackle too. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So true.
it's not just about people with sexual problems, but it's life
Right.
enhancement, right? It's if you want to inject more life into your marriage,
Hmm.
start with sex. If you
Yeah.
want to overcome other problems, start with sex. It's a
Right.
great place to start
Yeah.
and end.
So true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, it's just what you're saying. It's such good grounds. It's like if you, because those are vulnerable, hard conversations. So it's like if you can get good at that, everything else seems a little bit easier. It's like if you can figure that out in your relationship, anything else will be like, this is nothing. We got it.
Cool, cool. So let's say you are working on your thoughts and you're
Okay.
this is a lifelong process, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Improving our thoughts around sex. Things are going great. I want to hear your black belt sex tips. Can you share
Mm,
how do we take things from where they are to the next level? We're talking to couples that have things going well.
right.
Now let's amp it up a notch or two.
Yeah. I would say I think just like asking your partner, coming to your partner and being like, "So, like how's sex for you these days?
Uh-huh.
Like is there anything that do you want it to look different? Do you want like where are you at?" I just think that just like we were talking about earlier, it's just so easy to come into a routine. And so
Yes.
I would say a black belt tip is just being like, "Hey, like where are you at? How are you feeling about sex these days? What are you thinking?
Uh-huh.
Where do you want
Uh-huh.
to go from here?" Again,
Yes.
I just personally think like being that intentional about it, like that's hot.
Yes.
You know?
Uh-huh.
And then it creates this great conversation, which then usually leads to awesome sex too.
Yes. Great.
So,
I like that tip. So talking about it leads to great sex.
yes. Yeah.
Great. Any other tips?
I feel like that's my main one, just, like, being willing to talk about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
And being willing to talk about it reinforces this concept that we teach a lot that you have to have a good relationship first. Like
Yes.
the number
That's
one
so
factor
true.
that helps women have more orgasms isn't a vibrator or technique.
Right.
It's the quality of the relationship. That's number
Totally.
one by far. But it's so easy to overlook, like how important it is that you have a good relationship with yourself and with your spouse.
Right.
And like what you said earlier, to kind of summarize, if you're always like trying to change your spouse, you're not going to have a great relationship with them.
No. And I think too, it's recognizing the only reason you're trying to change your spouse is because you think that'll make you feel better. We're just so
Yes.
convinced that if they would act in a certain way, say certain things, do certain things, that would make me feel great.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
That's really not how the world works.
Uh
Because
uh.
there's all kinds of spouses out there that are doing all kinds of amazing things and there's still resentful wives running around everywhere,
That's
right?
right. Uh
The
huh.
only the only reason you feel great or happy or sad or mad always is because of what you're
Of,
thinking. So it's like
of the
if you
way you
want
think
more
of it.
connection, if you want to feel better in your marriage, take a look at your thoughts. Like the quality of your relationship is totally correlated to the quality of the things that you think about that person.
I love
So
that.
again, that's a great place to start. Instead of trying to change your spouse or change yourself so that you think your spouse will love you more,
Uh huh.
change your thoughts. Notice what you're thinking and then work on changing one of them. Even just
Hmm.
neutralizing one of them. will give you more power.
Love that. That's great. If people want to get in touch with you and learn more about you and the coaching that you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, I would say right now you can just head on over to Instagram. I'm there at Heather Flake Coaching. So that's the best way to find me. I also have a podcast called Marriage Mindset. So you can find me there. And yeah, I would love to connect with any and all of you. So
Very good. Great.
mhm.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in accelerating growth in your marriage, either sexually, emotionally, or spiritually, I want to invite you to work with me in my affordable coaching program called Next Level. More information about Next Level and my fun and sexy apps for couples are available at getyourmarriageon.com. Please also don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to tell your married friends. I promise, they will thank you for life. Now go get your marriage on.